Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Motor Trade Radio podcast. Powered by Motors, the driving force behind multi-site advertising. With Philip Nothard and Curtis Hutchinson, bringing you all the chatter that matters.
Well, we're obviously heading partway through September now, Curtis. I think there's lots of discussions taking place whether people are putting the heating on yet. I think
Yes.
as the temperatures seem to dip a bit. And do you look out 1 minute and it's bright sunshine and look out the next and it's clouds and heavy rain? But that's the time of year we're at.
It certainly is, yeah, and certainly resisting the temptation to put the heating on.
Hold it back. See how long we can hold
Yeah.
back on. Yes,
It's just wrong.
Yeah, you're getting a bit of a cold. There's cold going around, and
Yeah.
I got caught up in the tube strike in London. Nobody wants to hear about my moans and groans about that experience. But that's me off London now till about 2030. Stay away from that place for a while, but all good. But
Well, you know what? By 2030, we'll have another tube strike, so you may mistime it again.
Yeah, well, I think probably. I was in London one of the last one, not the last one, but I think you commented that they've not had one for a while, in reference 2022 or something. But that's
3 years, 3 whole years.
Yeah, well done, guys. Yeah, well done with that. But yeah, it was a bit of a gridlock in London, but that's what you get. So we've got a couple of quick shout outs because we're conscious we've got a fairly busy show because we've got a couple of interludes or snippets to play this week, haven't we, Curtis?
We have, yeah. So in addition to this week's big headlines, we've got a special focus on mental well-being in the motor trade with an extract from our interview with Rachel Clift, the CEO of Ben. Now, the full interview, which went out during the week, it's really a timely catch-up on Ben's new strategic direction under Rachel's leadership. So that is available on your podcast feed, and we'll have an extract from that in a minute.
Yeah, great chat with Rachel and a deep dive into what they're doing there with the new focus. But and partway through today's show at the midway break, you'll get in your second half with Stephen Whitten will be joining us for his latest Men Able moment, and he's focusing on the mental wealth in the automotive workplace as usual.
You're listening to all the chatter that matters on the Motor Trade Radio podcast. If you're a supplier and would like us to profile your business and reach our audience of dealer bosses, managers and decision makers on one of our dedicated supplier specials episodes, get in touch with Curtis and Philip at motortraderadio@yahoo.com.
And companies recently featured in our supplier specials include Prospecting Dynamics, the CRM specialists led by Nancy Rignall, who are working with some of the UK's biggest dealer groups. So that is in your podcast feed, so do check that. And other recent supplier specials we've done include ETT, who are shaking up AI dealer call handling, Generational, the EV battery health test provider, and MTC, who are disrupting the way dealer websites are designed and built. So if you would like us to profile your business, then just get in touch with myself or Philip. We're both on LinkedIn.
Yeah, please do. A fantastic interview so far. And next up, as Curtis said there, we've got the extract from the interview earlier on in the week, where you can find the full interview with Rachel, who's the CEO from Ben. And I mean, just thinking of the part of this new direction, and you've mentioned it throughout, partnering with employers a little bit closer, and you talk about getting some of that leadership team into this sector, into the industry, and not just the people behind the scenes actually getting to the forefront of it. But can you share what this will entail and what response you're having from the sector so far on this?
Yeah, sure. So my kind of ethos around sort of the way that we work with the industry is we need to be quite creative in how we work with different parts of the industry. So one of the things that we have done and we've spent time on during this period of time, so I think, Curtis, you asked me, well, what progress have you made? And this isn't so much with the senior leadership team, but certainly in this transition period of what is an older Ben to now is the new Ben, we felt like we needed to have a product that spoke to employers more specifically. And so we have developed a sort of Ben Life partnership, which is effectively where employers will sign up to become a Ben Life partner. It packages up everything that we do, all of the services that we provide online, through digital, through our helpline, through a 24/7 support line, a new digital self-help platform, our life coaching, case management, all of the mental health provision that we provide through counselling, talking therapies, and a lot of specialist sort of interventions as well. And to help it to speak the language of an employer. So what are the benefits of me engaging as a Ben Life partner, and what do I need to do? And we've tried to make that quite simple by saying, well, we want you to get involved. We want you to help us to raise awareness. And we also need you to support our work. And by support our work, we need you to help fund us, because we can't carry on and keep continuing to do this without the industry's support. So Ben Life is a packaged product specifically for employers, but it won't be for everyone. And it's based on a corporate donation model. And we have a lot of corporate donors. So my view on the world is, if that's not quite right for one employer, but it is for another, great. But then we have to create opportunities to collaborate with different stakeholders, different employers in different ways. So maybe working on particular health campaigns, or where we think there are significant issues with one particular area of the industry, we hone in on that. So we collaborate, we build initiatives, we have health campaigns. So I think we have to be quite creative in our partnerships and what that looks like. But like I said, we will be talking more about our Ben Life partner model specifically for employers.
And Rachel, as we head into the final quarter, and I can't believe I'm actually saying that, you'll be heavily involved in shaping this year's Ben Ball in December. And, that has over the years, really established itself as one of the highlights of the automotive calendar. What can you share with listeners about this year's event? Because I'm sort of conscious of, there's a lot of change that you and the team are bringing into the charity. Is the Ben Ball going to change and evolve?
Well, like everything, I can't deny that we are not obviously reviewing every aspect of what we do and how we do it. And our fundraising is clearly one area that we will be doing that for all the events that we run. Because the most important thing about our fundraising is that we are getting the greatest amount of return on investment. So that's a really critical sort of measure for us. And so we'll evaluate each of our fundraising events, each of our fundraising products, because for every pound that is donated, it's really important to whoever it is that's donating or funding, that they know that the large proportion of it is being spent on charitable good causes. And so, yes, we will be reviewing everything we're doing. But Ben Ball, obviously we'll be there on the 10th of December. And I suppose for almost a century, it's been unofficially the sort of industry's Christmas party.
Yes.
And a lot of people do sort of say to us that they do feel that they tend to slow down and start enjoying the festive spirit when they realise that Ben Ball is just around the corner. So there'll be plenty sort of to go out in terms of the experience of Ben Ball this year. It's not a themed event like it was last year. We did a Great Gatsby theme last year, which was received really well. But we are moving back to the Golden Triangle, so we've moved the event back to Hilton on Park Lane, because just on some of the feedback that we had around Billingsgate Market, it's quite difficult to get to accommodation. Yes. So we've moved back to Park Lane. So there'll be the usual kind of great mix of food, company. There's entertainment as well. But what we do have tried to thread into Ben Ball, for certainly since I joined in 2018, is the sort of heartwarming impact and the stories of what the work we're delivering. And it is often those kind of personal and family orientated stories that you can see people really finding that quite emotive on the night. And so we do like to share quite a few of those stories on the night, and they always are received incredibly well. But obviously we want to show our appreciation for everyone and their support on the evening, and hopefully we will have a record-breaking fundraising night as well.
You're listening to the Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by Motors.
Headlines this week come from AM Car Dealer, Motor Trader, The FT, and This Is Money. Starting with end of quarter tactical registrations hint at pressure on the new car market, according to Cox Automotive. The FCA announces that up to 14 million car loans are likely to meet compensation criteria, with redress plans to be announced next month. We have an update on the cyber attack on JLR, with the car maker saying it now believes data has been compromised. Then, after the midway break, we have some dealer group news with an MBO for Northeast-based Tustain Motor Group, while neighbouring family-owned Lloyd Motor Group expands with JLR. And we'll finish with a Welcome U-turn from Volkswagen, as it confirms it will be using the Polo and Golf names on its all-electric ID ranges.
That's going to be certainly welcome news.
Yes, yeah.
We'll get to that one at the end.
Definitely, yeah. So starting with first headline of the week is from AM, and the headline is End of Quarter Tactics Hint at UK New Car Market Pressure. And this is based on some thoughts and research I know you've been doing, Philip, at Cox Automotive, because you've come up with the new forecast, haven't you, for 2025? And the forecast for new car registrations is 2,035,750. So that would actually be an uplift of 3.2% year on year. But as is often the case, that there's an awful lot that goes into these forecasts, and a lot of factors that need to be considered, as well as some of this tactical activity that we've been seeing around quarter ends.
Yeah, no, I think as you say, every quarter we reforecast or review our forecasts for the new car and LCV market now, and the used market. But clearly, I think what we're trying to call out here is looking at particularly Q1, Q2, identifying that we talk about that significant uplift in last minute activity at the end of June, which the circa 30% of the June registrations were done on the final day of June. And you in some of the marketplace platforms, you can see some of those vehicles advertised with delivery mileage as a date of reg as the end of June there, that are still for sale in the market. So we know that there was that tactical activity, but clearly, we are heading back to a 2 million new car market, and that's the crucial bit with this. And I think the thing that we're trying to look at is how will we get to that 2 million this year, return to some tactical activity, pressure coming in there. We've got the ECG grant now that is, how many cars did we say was on there, Curtis, now?
I think this week it's up. Well, I say it's on 35, but only 2 qualifying for that top band, £3,750.
Yeah, which I believe the Puma E has got. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody listening, but 100,000 orders and lead time for 2026 now. So
that's a long queue now forming for the Puma E, isn't it?
and a big chunk out of the 650 million, Curtis. I think we did that quick calculation.
There's not going to be a huge amount left after all those orders are processed.
No, and I think that's the thing with it. And it is actually, we don't at the danger of digressing too much, but there are questions as to where the batteries are actually from for the Puma. But anyway, we won't get into that one. And people are saying that it's from one part of the world, but then the cells within the batteries come from another part. So there's questions. But anyway, we won't enter into that debate. But no, I think clearly we don't think there was much tactical activity in July and August, low volume months. Not really the focus on those months for a end of a half year point. Really, or a quarter for the manufacturers. I think the crucial part now is going to be what happens at the end of September.
Yeah.
How strong the order bank is going into the month. I know there is some strong orders for September, but it's whether that's across the board, or whether certain manufacturers will need and want to do some tactical activity and short cycle business at the end of September, which I suspect they probably will, because there's a lot of cars sat around. There's a lot of product on the ground that needs to be registered. They probably won't want to leave too much into the fourth quarter. They'll probably want to get ahead of that.
Yeah, and probably final push for the year for the ZEV mandate in terms of, I think at the moment is about 25% of registrations are EVs. That needs to be 28% before whatever fines and schemes start kicking in as a result of the ZEV mandate.
Yeah, and we covered it, didn't we, last week in terms of the new car registrations. Yes, there's it's still happening, and the ECG grant is helping some of that, not necessarily from the government's money, but the countering incentives from other manufacturers to do that. But plug-in hybrid and the hybrid market is seeing growth, primarily, as we said last week, from the new entrants coming into the market. So there is going to be that push for the ZEV mandate, and as you say, Curtis, September is a crucial month for the manufacturers. It's that definitive month for the year as to where they are before the slowdown into the fourth quarter there. So there'll be a lot of focus as to where they are, what they are in terms of market share, and particularly on that ZEV mandate target as well.
And next couple of stories are updates on stories that we've been talking about over recent weeks. And the first one's from the Financial Times, and the headline is "Up to 14 million car loans likely to meet compensation criteria," FCA says. So this is an update on the redress scheme, and the FT reports that consumers will be able to claim compensation on up to 14 million car loans. And that's car loans that are made since 2007. So that's very much the start date. The FCA is predicting the average payout will be hundreds of pounds, which we've already reported on. But what's actually new in this story is that the head of the FCA, Nikhil Rathi, has confirmed to MPs on Tuesday this week that it would present proposals in early October for the redress scheme. So we will get to know about that over the coming weeks now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had the interview, didn't we, with John Butler from Geldards on the back of the Supreme Court announcement, and around this. But you look at that figure there, and it's staggering. 14 million car loans. It looks like the end of that consultation period or consideration period now that they went straight into with the FCA. And now I think the bit in here, and you and I were talking, is the comment from is it Rathi, who when this is all going to start to happen.
Yeah, because he actually says that the critical, and this is a direct quote, the critical mass of these complaints will be dealt with next year. So I think the key to that quote is will be dealt with. So they'll be dealt with next year. When they'll be paid remains to be seen. But he has warned that many of the individual cases would actually be fact specific and will require the FCA to exercise some regulatory judgment. So this process, it is starting to move, it's starting to take shape, but it's going to be a long, long time before all these 14 million cases are processed and owners are compensated.
Yeah, there's a lot to come, and I think there's in the story here they talk about the appearing before the MPs on the Treasury Select Committee. The FCA boss said that the redress scheme would include a cut-off date for the last admissible claims. The end date, which has not yet been set, is intended to avoid repeating the almost decade of turmoil caused by the payment protection insurance, the PPI scandal, which ended up costing the banks almost 50 billion. So I think they probably learned some lessons from the PPI claims, didn't they, in terms of that redress period. But I think there's a lot to come out of this one still.
Yeah, definitely. And we have another update, and that's on the JLR cyber attack, which we reported on last week. And there has been sort of regular drip of information on this in the media, both the trade press and the national press over the last week. So we're going to go to AM Online for this story. And the headline there is JLR believes data has been compromised by cyber attack. So this report shows that JLR believes some of its data has been compromised after it was targeted by organised crime cyber criminals at the beginning of September. So it was timed to start with the plate change, and it's affected retailing operations across the JLR network, as well as car production. So the ramifications of this are massive, but it looks though there is some breach of data as well that's now being looked at as part of this.
Yeah, and yeah, I think this is causing quite a few problems, and as you said before, that this affects not just the registration and sales of JLR product, primarily Land Rover product, because Jaguar haven't really got any new products at the minute, but also the after-sales side of operations for the sector as well. So it's having a huge impact, and it was quite interesting that this week, and again, you and I were chatting about this before the show, Curtis, that there is comments coming out now within the sector that the data or the data management was outsourced to Tata Consultancy, which obviously Tata own JLR, but also that they look after the Marks and Spencers, which obviously we know is facing a 300 million cost of their fraud cyber attack. And I also believe that they're involved with the Co-op. So, yeah, I mean, don't take that for fact. Do your own Googling or ChatGPT or whatever, where you find your sources of information. But I think there's more to come on this once it's resolved. So, I think everybody's linking everything to Tata Consultancy, who have been the data third party for the operations.
Yeah, and meanwhile, JLR dealers, I mean, they're really under pressure to, continue offering some form of service to their customers. And AM does pick up on the impact on after-sales customers, possibly feeling the most immediate impact of the cyber hack, because there would have been many vehicles in the system in for service and repair work, which are now affected by it, and the whole parts ordering process. I mean, it's all ground to a halt. And I think as we record this, we still don't know if any of it has been freed up and if cars are being worked on yet.
You do feel for the sector, and particularly JLR have had some turmoil over the years, haven't they, unfortunately. But we'll be back after this brief break with Stephen Whitton with his latest Men-able moments, and we'll be back to the headlines shortly.
You're listening to all the chatter that matters on Motor Trade Radio, powered by Motors, the driving force behind multi-site advertising. This is your weekly one-stop shop for all the biggest car retailing headlines from across the media, available on demand, wherever you are, and on your podcast feed. Next up is our latest Men-able moment, looking at mental wealth and well-being awareness and best practice in the automotive sector. With me, Stephen Whitton.
Yeah, hi everyone, it's Men-able Moments September edition today. So I hope you're well and enjoying the last of the weather before the autumn sets in. And I'm sure Phil and Curtis will talk about how quickly this year has whizzed past and how we're progressing on. But there's a couple of things I want to chat to you about this time. And it has been World Suicide Prevention Day this week, 10th of September. And lots of stuff going on out there about the importance of talking, and the theme of this year is about changing the narrative. And I take that to mean making it okay to talk about mental health, mental wealth, and obviously the ultimate dark side of that, which is the potential for suicide and for people to feel that they're at the end of their tether. And it's a poignant day for me because it would have been my 37th wedding anniversary, and many of you will know, and it's quite well published, that my marriage came to a very unfortunate end for one reason or another, all down to me, nothing else, no one else, just my fault. And as a result of that, when that collapsed and business collapsed and the pandemic hit and everything, I was at the end of my tether and had lost my sense of purpose and was feeling suicidal. And I've got to be honest, it's the fact that I made a choice, which is another key part of the narrative. I made a choice to not do that, and clearly I'm still here and I'm on a mission, and I want to make sure that we ensure everyone is safe in automotive to open up and have these conversations. It's so important. And with that in mind, I had a lovely conversation with a member of staff in the local M&S the other day, and we talked about just that. And I put a post out about it, so I won't go over it too much, but in short, this lady had lost her daughter to suicide for one reason or another, and you could quite clearly see that 3 years down the line she is dealing with what is obviously a horrible situation for her family. We had a long chat, we connected, and we had a hug, which, you don't expect to do that, do you, with somebody that you meet in a supermarket or a big shop or whatever. But anyway, I do believe that the universe causes these conversations to happen, and lo and behold, it did. And I felt the need to go and speak to one of her managers and say, do you know what? You're really blessed to have this lady in your team who's so open, and, she's clearly going through a lot, but you're blessed to have her. And the manager said to me, we definitely are, and we encourage her to speak up, and she has been an inspiration for everyone in our team, and we have such an open culture and conversation that I just thought, wow, isn't that what we want to aim at? So out of one person's absolutely horrendous adversity, that organisation has clung on to the path of hope, and in the process have supported that lady and made it a safe place for her and everyone around her. With that in mind, I also want to give a massive shout out to Ben, obviously our automotive charity, and to the fabulous podcast, guys, that you did this week with Rachel, the CEO of Ben. And I agree with you, Phil. I think the energy and commitment that's there in that team now, and the revamped senior team and everything else, and all of the work that I see happening from Ben, it's just awesome. And it's incumbent on all of us in the industry to get behind them, do what we can to raise funds and ensure that they are very much a sustainable part of our future as an industry. We're very much looking forward to the conversations that we're having with them to see what we can do in support of that, and vice versa. And as Rachel rightly said, our part, Menable's part in all of that, is waving a flag for the culture. And, few people have said it, lots of commentators say it often, that the culture in our industry needs to be looked at. It needs to change. And let's just not use World Suicide Prevention Day to prompt that, but let's do it all the time and look at what we need to do to open up cultures, open up conversations, be supportive, and just make it a safe place for everyone. Everyone safe, always. That's our new little mantra. And I'm here this week at Ramp in Peterborough, who are part of the Canberra group. Fabulous little team there doing some work around maintenance plans, and they are embracing the whole thing around mental wealth. So I shall report back on that soon. But in the meantime, again, thanks, guys, for giving us this platform. And, let's all be the wonderful community that we are. Have a great weekend, and I will catch up with you again soon.
Did you make a note of that new mantra?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's got legs. Yeah, I was just going to say. I mean, it's Stephen not shirking from the challenging topics, and he does it so well, and very timely. So thanks to Stephen for that. And if you would like to make contact with Stephen, then Menable is online. The website is menable.org. Or you can email him at stephen.witten@menable.org. stephen.org, and it's Stephen with a PH.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's great that the organisations are coming together on these kind of topics and to support the industry that could not one organisation can do it all themselves, and as you know, with the Rachel interview there and Steve, they need the support of the industry to get behind them and support them as well. So all the best, and we'll catch up soon. But back to the headlines, and motortrader.com is that Tustain Motors MBO led by MD Kevin Robson. Now, we have covered a couple of these before, haven't we, in one, because there's also the trustee kind of buyout as well, where the business goes into a kind of a management trustee, but it's kind of the employees that do that. But it seems to be a bit of a theme, this, doesn't it, from some of these owner-driver businesses taking on the control from the management buyouts.
Yeah, it's a good story, this. So Tustain Motors, so as you say, it's been subject to a management buyout for an undisclosed sum. They're based in Ashington in Northumberland, and the dealer group has sites across Northumberland, the borders, East Lothian, up to Edinburgh, and it employs 112 staff. It's mostly a used car business these days. I think it's across 7 sites. One of them is an Isuzu site, and it has Bosch servicing facilities. But as a regional group, it has grown since it was founded in 2010. And yeah, so the MBO is led by Kevin Robson, managing director. And this is very much the way the business is going as an MBO, whilst previous owners Brian Baxter and David Story will remain in the business as co-chairman, so working in an advisory role and really helping with that transition.
I think that's great. I think that's a great move. I think, you know, the fact that, you know, they obviously they've been considering probably walking away from the business, but obviously it's a good business that they've set up there, and as you say, you know, that management buyout opportunity. But I think, you know, that sort of advisory role and co-chairman working with them as they do transition, because obviously they've built a strong business since 2010, as you say, with growth across that territory there, and they want to make sure that it's in good hands, it's in the right hands, and help them to it. So it's like you say, it's a great little story, and showing that, because we know that these mid-sized dealers have been under a lot of pressure, haven't they, over the years. So this is a great opportunity for this business to continue and to continue to grow.
Yeah, definitely. And it's worth adding that earlier in the year, the company actually opened its 7th site, which was in Cramlington. And that was a former Evans Halshaw car store. So, that did add, a sizable facility to the network. So this ensures that, there is continuity, there is a succession now. And it's going to be interesting to see where Tustain goes from here, because, it's a good, solid regional name there.
Yeah, definitely. And sticking with dealers, but heading over to Car Dealer magazine now, and you might question this from the earlier story we're talking about with the cyber attack, but Lloyd's Motor Group grows JLR portfolio after agreeing deal to buy 3 sites from Stratstone. So Stratstone sells the trio of North East JLR sites to Lloyd's Motor Group. The firms have agreed the deals are for business in Newcastle, Stockton, and Horton-le-Spring, and it involves 165 employees who have now already joined Lloyd's as part of that deal there. So there is obviously, this is on the back of kind of a bit of a territory restructuring that we're starting to see now from some of the OEMs, and particularly with Land Rover here. So we know Lloyd's have got a very strong business across that territory, along with BMW and other franchises they've got. They are a great business, led now by Sam Lloyd after his father recently sadly passed away. But you can see where they are moving that when Lithia obviously focusing more on the Southern Territory now with their brand representation.
Yeah, and it's a good move for Lloyd Motor Group, and they again, a sizable regional group, family owned, as you say, with operations across Cumbria, North East, Lancashire, North Yorkshire, and the Scottish borders. And this really does strengthen its representation with JLR, as you say. It's not a great time at the moment for JLR, but long term, this is a really, really good move. And, it does highlight some of the sort of reshuffling that Lithia is doing with its old Pendragon business.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we'll see a lot more from Lloyd's Motor Group in due course. They've just been opening these odd little sites and taking on franchises here, there, and everywhere with like BYD and others. So yeah, I think they're growing just rightly, as you say, that across that territory. But we'll head to our and finally, could call it an and finally now. But
we can,
this is a great story and a very pleasing story in many ways, because over the years you and I have probably talked about these kind of naming conventions from the OEMs, but this is a story that's in This Is Money, and this is that Volkswagen confirms it will keep its historical model names like Polo and Golf when it shifts to electric cars. Now, this is on the back that obviously you've got the ID3, the ID5, and others now. Think that, so is it that they've been challenged in the fact that, what is an ID3?
Yeah, it's a fair question, isn't it?
It's kind of odd, isn't it? Because in one way, I suppose, there's an element of trying to enter a new era, but you also need to remain with your historical strength. And Polo and Golf and the Beetle and others have all had a very strong name in automotive, haven't they, over the decades?
I remember when we covered this story back in 2018 when Volkswagen announced its new naming convention for its all new electric vehicles. And we were really scratching our heads and, why wouldn't they want to use the Polo? Why wouldn't they want to use the Golf? And obviously a fair bit of soul searching has taken place since then at Volkswagen. No doubt a number of focus groups as well. And as a result of that, what will be the new ID2 will be the ID Polo, and it'll be the ID Polo GTI. So they're bringing back GTI as well. So a bit of a double whammy on that particular car.
Yeah, I support this move. I think it's a great move. I think, from an understanding of where that vehicle sits within a sector and a model, you kind of got an understanding of what the Polo is, understanding what the Golf is and the Touareg and everything else that sits in terms of those model lineups. You kind of understand what classification of vehicle that is when you're looking at it. So I think this will work well for both the sector itself, but also from a consumer perspective as well. And I wonder if others will maybe start to follow, because these aren't the only ones that have switched to some kind of number. We won't get into hashtags that are also in the market, but there are others that use the number convention, don't they, for their models?
Yes, yeah, and this story does actually speculate that maybe the forthcoming ID3 will be the ID Golf, and it does question whether the likes of the Tiguan, Touareg, and Up could be revived. And interestingly, the Beetle. We could see an electric Beetle, ID Beetle, at some stage.
Yeah, good one on that one. But yeah, that's it for this week. So quite a little bit of a longer one again, just due to the interview snippet there with Rachel from Ben. As Kirsty said at the start of the show, that is on your podcast feed from earlier on in the week. I think it was Wednesday morning of this week it was published. So do head over to the full interview if you've not listened to it already. A great open chat with Rachel, as to what is happening within Ben, why it's happening, and what that new leadership and strategy is going forward. So yeah, do listen to that full interview if you've not done already.
But that's all for now. So many thanks for joining us on the Motor Trade Radio podcast. Until next week, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
Thank you for listening to the Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by Motors, the driving force behind multi-site advertising. We'll be sharing all the URLs from this week's headlines on Monday morning. To make sure you receive them, just subscribe to the free newsletter on our LinkedIn page. Just search Motor Trade Radio Podcast.